Hi everyone, today's video will show you how to set up and process a quick payroll in GrandMaster Suite. Though the program offers many detailed features, if you have a basic payroll, you'll find that you can use many of the default settings and have your payroll set up in less than 20 minutes. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do is start the program, either from the Start menu or from a desktop shortcut. You can use the Supervisor ID or you can create your own as needed. When the System Manager appears, click on the Payroll Module button, and then choose the File New command. Enter a name that's 8 characters or less, and remember not to use any special characters. Include a description that will help you identify the payroll if you plan to create more than one. Click OK again and then use the Payroll Information window to set up the initial payroll and employer-related information. For basic payrolls, you'll use just the first 4 tabs only. Please note for this demo video, we will just leave many of the fields blank. In a real payroll setup, you would fill in all of the fields as necessary. As we move through the various windows in this demo, we'll point out the important fields that must be completed for calculation purposes. For example, the province field is required so that the program can set the default tax province for each employee that you add to your payroll. The rest of the fields in the Company Information tab allow you to define the business name, address, phone number, and so on. The Settings tab allows you to enter certain specifics about your payroll. An important option here is the payroll frequency. We'll choose the biweekly 26 option from the list. The CRA Account tab allows you to enter your CRA and or Revenue Quebec business numbers. Each payroll must have at least one CRA business number, followed by the RP0001 payroll account designation. The EI rate can be set here also. The Dates tab allows you to enter important company dates that are referenced by certain payroll functions. We can leave them blank for our demo. And once we click OK, the Payroll module displays the initial pay year, pay period, and sequence number. Now let's move to the Payroll menu and set up the basic information that's needed for us to process our first payroll. During the setup process, you simply move through this menu one step at a time, and once you've completed the menu options from top to bottom, you typically won't need to revisit them again. We've already completed the required details for the Payroll Information option, so let's move on to Electronic Funds Transfer. This step is optional and only required if you plan to pay your employees by EFT direct deposit. We begin by choosing the List button, and then we can add a bank profile that will include the settings needed when we create our EFT file for uploading to our bank. We click the New button and then provide a name. And then use the Profile window to enter all of the details. We will choose the Royal Bank format from the list and then fill in the remaining fields as needed. The Returns Bank Account field is important and represents the bank account where rejected employee transfers are stored by your bank until you're able to make a correction. You can check with your own bank to see if this feature is available. Once all of the fields are completed, you can click OK to return to the EFT settings window, and then we'll designate our new profile for the Employee Direct Deposit option and click OK. The next option in the Payroll menu is for workers' compensation settings. This feature is optional and your company may not require this step. To set up WCB, we choose the Insert button and then choose our work province. When the WCB settings window appears, we can fill in the various fields as needed. The start date is needed to signify when the WCB record should begin calculating, typically on January 1st of the current year. Likewise, the end date is used to set when the WCB record should cease calculating, typically the final day of the year. We can also set the yearly maximum assessable here, along with the defined rate. Now we click OK to complete our WCB profile. If we have workers in multiple provinces, we can add more profiles as needed. The next item in the payroll menu is for provincial health settings, applicable if your province has a provincially funded health plan, such as Ontario's EHT. You can set it up in the same manner as the WCB profile we just created. This brings us to the final portion of this menu for our quick demo. Earnings, deductions, and accumulators. Payroll earning records are required so that GrandMaster Suite can calculate the wages for each employee. This includes regular hourly earnings, salary earnings, bonuses, commission, and many other types. For this demo, we will create the two most common types, salary and hourly. We'll choose the Insert button and then enter 1 as the first earning number. We're now presented with the Update window that contains 4 tabs of information that you can define. For a basic payroll, you can use many of the default settings to speed up the entry process. We'll enter a brief description for the earning, a short name, and a pay code. We can leave the start and end date fields blank for this one and rely on the dates that we will enter later for the pay period. If we did want to utilize GrandMaster Suite's date-based functionality, we could make this earning applicable for a specified period of time only, and then we would create a second salary earning that would automatically begin after the first earning date ended. Since this is a salary earning with no work hours involved, we will leave the unit type set as pay period. Employees who use this earning will earn the same fixed amount for each period, regardless of the amount of hours they work. The Rate tab allows us to set the default rate treatments for the earning. You can set up the earning to use a fixed rate, or to be based on a multiplying value of another earning, or even based on a defined rate table. For our demo, we use the defaults and leave the fields unchanged. We will set the individual employee rates later when we add each employee. The Flags tab indicates whether the earning is subject to the various payroll source deductions and taxes. We will use the defaults for this salary earning type. And lastly, the Control tab contains a number of options for the processing of the earning type. Again, we'll just go with the default settings. And that completes the setup for a salary earning. For our regular hourly earning, we'll choose the Insert button once again and then enter a number 2 as the earning number. We'll enter the description as regular earning. And since the hours will vary for each period, we will set the unit type to hour. As with the previous salary earning, the defaults can be used for the Rate tab since we'll define the individual earning rates for each employee as we add them to the payroll later on. The Flags tab shows the default tax treatments, and we can also use the defaults shown on the Control tab. And lastly, we'll create a vacation earning, number 3. This earning will be used to track each employee's vacation time. Now that our payroll earnings are completed, we can move to the Payroll Deductions menu command. This screen allows us to control regular non-statutory deductions, such as dental plan premiums, life insurance premiums, pension contributions, union dues, garnishee orders, and so on. Note that statutory deductions for income tax, CPP, and EI are automatically calculated by the program based on each employee's payroll settings. These automatic deductions do not need to be created here. For our demo, let's create a basic RSP deduction where each employee contributes a set amount that is matched by the employer. We'll choose the Insert button, enter number 1 for the new deduction, and then enter a brief description. The Fix tab allows us to input set amounts that can be used to process this deduction. For our demo, we'll use the Calculate tab instead, so that we can define a predefined method that will be used to determine the deduction amount. We'll click inside the calculation code field and then press F8 on our keyboard to open a list of 200 predefined calculation formulas. We'll choose the percentage of selected earnings, and then we'll define a custom table. This will enable us to specify both the employer and employee's contribution rates. We will use the default settings for each of the remaining tabs: Flags, Control, and Selections. And finally, we'll use the Accumulators menu option to create an accumulator record that will calculate and accrue the vacation pay owing to the employee. First, we'll enter a basic description for the accumulator. And then we'll move to the Calculate tab so that we can set the values that will determine the amounts to be accumulated. Again, we'll click inside the calculation code cell, and we'll press F8 on our keyboard to display a predefined list of calculation methods. We'll choose the percentage of selected earnings method, and then we'll use a custom table so that we can define a series of accumulated rates. For our demo, we'll add 4%, 6%, and 8% rates to cover new and tenured employees. As we add our employees later, we can specify which rate to use based on the 3 rows we've created. The Flags tab provides numerous options to further control the calculation of the accumulator. We'll go with the defaults here, and we'll do the same for the Control tab as well. Lastly, we'll choose the Associated tab and specify which earning record will be used to collect the accrued vacation funds. We do so by clicking inside the Prime field and pressing F8. And when the Update window appears, we'll choose the vacation earning. We created this one earlier, and now we can accept all the changes. And that completes the setup for your basic payroll. We can now set the payroll's calculation type and details by opening the Calculations menu, and then choosing the Normal Calculation option from the Set Calculation Type submenu. Once the dates are initialized, we can set the start, end, and check dates. When we click OK, the Pay Periods window appears so that we can verify our dates along with the subsequent dates for future pay periods. If we open the calculation menu once again, we'll notice that a check mark appears beside the menu command to indicate that this step has been performed in the calculation process. The last step in this menu for now is to verify that our earnings, deductions, and accumulators are set for the calculation. To do so, we simply choose each menu command in succession to verify that the items are included in the calculation. As we accept each window, a check mark will appear beside the menu command to indicate that this step is done. Now it's time to add employees to the payroll, and then we'll be able to perform our first calculation. To start the Add Employee process, we can either click on the icon with the employee and the plus sign, or we can choose the Add Employee command from the Employee menu. We begin by entering their name and then choosing the Add to Registry button. The registry can be thought of as your pool of employees. The registry will show every employee in your company regardless of the payroll to which they belong. When the employee information window appears, we can use the 5 tabs to fill in all of their personal details. The mandatory fields for our demo will be the social insurance number and their badge number. We'll also enter their initial hire date and move to the Personal tab and enter their birth date. And that's all we need for this demo employee. Next, we choose the Add to Payroll button and define their payroll-related settings. We must add their employee number and then move to the Base Earnings section and click inside the cell and press F8 on a keyboard. This displays the list of earnings that we created earlier. We'll choose the salary earning for this person and then click OK. For salaried employees, we'll enter the amount that they earn per period. Our demo employee earns $2,000 per period. And then we'll also set the default number of hours that they work for the period. In this case, 80. Now we click OK and are presented with a window where we can enter the employee's payroll-specific information. There are several tabs, each with a variety of information that can be completed. We will choose most of the defaults for our demo employee, including their active payroll status and their full rate business account. The Dates tab uses information we defined earlier for the employee, as does the Base Default tab. The taxes are applied automatically based on the employee's tax province. And the defaults for CPP and EI show that each new employee is not exempt from either, unless you want them to be. The WCB and Provincial Health tabs are fine with the default settings, as are the Categories and Workweek settings tabs. The final setting for this employee is their bank information. This is so that they can be paid by EFT direct deposit. You would fill in all of these fields as needed. With these settings in place, we can click OK, and the program now presents us with the earnings window so that we can specify the earning types that will be assigned to this employee. In this case, the salary earning appears in the list automatically because we assigned the salary earning earlier as their base default earning. So now we'll add their vacation earning by choosing the Insert button, pressing F8 to view the list of earnings, and then choosing the vacation earning from the list. We don't need to set a rate on this earning, as the accumulator will take care of that for us. With this employee's earnings now complete, we press OK, and the deductions window appears automatically. In the same manner as the earlier earnings, we'll choose the Insert button and then choose our deduction. We can then edit the deduction to set the rates that the employee will use. In our case, we'll move to the Calculate tab and ensure that we use row 1 of our custom table, which shows a contribution rate of 5% of the employee's earnings. Once we click OK again, the Accumulators window appears automatically. Again, we choose the Insert button, select the accumulator number, and then move to the Calculate tab to verify the correct percentage. In our case, the default 4% is fine. We have now finished entering the salary employee and defining her individual information. Now let's use the same approach to quickly enter one more employee who will earn an hourly wage instead of a set salary. In the same manner as earlier, we enter their name and then choose the Add to Registry button once again. Once that's done, we choose the Add to Payroll button and assign their employee number, in this case number 2. Since this employee is an hourly wage earner, we set their base earning to the regular type. And then we define their hourly rate of pay, in this case $20 per hour. And then we set the unit type to rate per hour. When we click OK, the payroll-specific information window appears for the new employee. We can accept all of the defaults and go straight to the Bank 1 tab. This is where we can define their bank-related details so that they can be paid by EFT. When we close the window, we will now use the next 3 screens to set their earnings, deductions, and accumulators as we did with the original employee. We see the base earning is already set, so we use the Insert button to add their vacation earning as well. And for the deductions, we'll use the Insert button to assign the RSP deduction. The default 5% rate is already in place. And lastly, we use the Insert button to assign the vacation accumulator. We can see that the default 4% accrual rate is already in place. We've now successfully added 2 types of employees, salary and hourly. For your payroll, you can repeat this process as needed for each additional staff member. And now the final step before our first calculation is to enter the work hours for our single hourly employee. We do so by choosing the Employee Hours Entry command. We can use the Next Employee button to skip to our hourly paid employee, whose name is John Hourly. Note that we do not need to enter work hours for Joyce, who is paid by salary. This is because salary wage earners are paid a set wage per period. We'll choose the Enter Time button for John and then click inside the Earning field and press F8 to view the list of his earnings. We'll choose the regular earning type and click OK. And then we'll set his hours at 80 hours. When we press the Tab key, the program displays his calculated payment amount. With the hours now entered, we can choose the Calculate Payroll menu command, and then click OK to proceed. Once the payroll is calculated, the Payroll Summary Exceptions report appears on screen, listing any errors, changes, or new effective dates that are encountered during the calculation process. After we close the report, we can view an interim payroll register by choosing the Current Reports Pay Register command. By the way, the various other items under the Current Reports menu allow you to review your payroll calculations until the payroll is officially closed. The default report settings are fine, so we'll click OK. And the resulting interim register shows each employee's pay information. And the last page of the report shows the company's current and year-to-date totals. When you're satisfied with the payroll calculations, you can close the pay to accept the results. To do so, we choose the Close Pay Sequence command from the calculation menu. Once the payroll is closed, you can go to the Reports menu to view the complete list of reports that the program provides. For example, if we choose the History EFT statements, we can produce printed pay statements for each employee. And that's a GrandMaster Suite payroll setup in about 20 minutes. There are many more detailed features available in the program, and you can use it for complex payroll situations or for the most basic small business payroll. Detailed online help is available by pressing F1 on every program screen. And if you're looking for payroll on the web, check out our free trial of eNet Employer. You can process payroll on your own at any time of the day with full security. Visit www.enetemployer.com for more information.